Hello folks and welcome. So Debian 12 KDE Plasma. Fully automated backups is what I'm going to talk about today, and we can also talk about manual backups, but this will be using a script file. There's something in my auto folder that if you just type in auto for a second, auto start. I'm going to be running this script. I can run it two ways. I can run it when I log in or log out, or I can run it manually to do a fully automated backup with a auto-mounted drive. This is not everybody's cup of tea. However, if you want to learn a little bit about how to do that, I will slow down a little bit, but I'm going to assume you know a little bit about script files. And I'll explain some of those terms if you are learning. I'll also give you some tips about how to name your folders without having to do some extraneous stuff to your script files. Because sometimes when people deal with spaces in names of drives or folders, we sometimes have to do extra stuff. Filming in 1080, folks, welcome. Subscription key is in the corner. 400 videos and growing, and all of my videos are keyword indexed. I'll also touch a little bit about Grsync, which is graphical rsync. But in general, what I'm going to talk about is this right here. If you have a process that you want to do backups, and let's face it, whenever you're dealing with your precious documents, whether it's documents or precious photos, you should always back them up on a drive or a USB drive or a USB stick or an internal drive that is not your booted in drive, if that makes sense. Because if you lose your booted in drive with your backup on it, everything goes away. Now I have a very simple one with a tar backup. I can talk about that toward the latter part of the video because anyone can make those. Today I'm going to talk about an internal hard drive. If you're running like a tower computer, most laptops don't have two hard drives. But how to synchronize all of these documents with the current user. So if the user edits, deletes, adds, all of that is also done automatically when this person logs in or out, depending on how you set this up, or you can do it manually. You can always run these things manually. All right, so this here is an auto-mounted drive. It doesn't say so, but it is. If I do Control L, you'll see that it says MNT on it. If I click this one and do a Control L, that says Media on it. Media Mark. Mark is our user for today. It's just a made-up name. Okay, that one's manually mounted. This one is auto-mounted. So I will show you how to do that. So first of all, let's process this command first, and then I will show you how this is done. I'm going to manually delete these. Then I'm also going to give you some tips about naming your folders, because if you don't, you'll have to do something special with your script files. And let's just try and keep things simple. All right, so first of all, I opened this up earlier and I showed you my system information, but if you type in auto in here, you're going to end up with auto start right here, and this will be blank if you've never used this. So I'm going to do that and hit add. Now you've got three choices: add an application, which we're not doing, or adding a login script or a log out script. That all depends on how you want to do this. I usually prefer to do a login script because I'm using a solid state drive. It's fairly quick. You hardly will even notice it when you are logging in. Again, I can always do it manually. If you're the type of person that wants to do a log out script, it's the same script file. It just processes that just before you shut down. And sometimes you're looking for a hurry. You're looking to shut down in a hurry. So sometimes it's actually easier to do logins, but again, you have a choice. Now the script file that I'm going to pick, I can choose either one. So it's currently located in here, and I will open the script up for you to let you see all the goodies in it because I'm going to give you some tips. I have lots of script files, but this is the one I'm using. It's called Debian backup. It's just a simple name. Okay, and it takes on the same name. Now this is all set for me to do auto starts, providing I have my current drive that I wrote the script file auto mounted, which I'll talk about in a minute. Now for me to actually demo that manually, I'm going to open up a second window, Control N as in Nancy, and go to the script folder. Does it have to be in a script folder? No, you can place it anywhere. So I'm going to run this on that drive. Now this drive here is currently empty also. This is a USB connected hard drive. This is an internal hard drive. So before I hit go, let's talk about your computer for a second. Are you using dual boots? Are you using a single boot? Are you using this drive for other purposes? Well, if you can answer the question, no, I'm not, then we can use this as auto-mounted and we can utilize it for backups in whatever capacity that you can afford if you have a hard drive, internal hard drive. All right, the lost and found is just, that's going to be here on both of these. So there's nothing in here, in other words, other than that. So I'm going to run this first, and now we'll open this in a minute. Okay, so what it's going to do is replicate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 folders. All right, if you're using an older spinning drive, these may take a couple more seconds, but this is generally very quick. And these are going to be using Grsync. Do you know what Grsync is? Grsync is used by a lot of backup applications also. Like Lucky Backups is like one example. You can write these script files where it will actually also auto-delete stuff if your user auto-deletes and creates. The creation part is not the important thing. It's the deletion part that I'm speaking of. You can choose to not have it delete anything in here. So it just keeps adding and also editing, but not deleting. We can also talk about also this tool, and you can get it from your Discover Software Center. I'm going to minimize this for a second and just type in GR. So graphical Grsync. Try an R, that's better. Graphical Grsync normally comes installed this way. It will not have anything. So graphical Grsync is Grsync. And if we don't know what Grsync is, you can open up your console or terminal and type in MAN space Grsync. Grsync is found under the hood on most distributions. A lot of people don't know that. Grsync is also used to sync files between computer to computer or internally. A lot of applications use Grsync. All right, so I'm going to pick a source, in this case documents, and we're going to make a copy of it to this drive, which is currently empty minus the lost and found. It's very simple to use this tool. Okay, source and destination, play button. Already created that. What happens when I hit the play button again? Nothing. It just verifies that nothing's changed. It does verify though. So that's one beauty, one nice thing that Grsync does is it verifies. If it doesn't need to do something, it doesn't do it. It does it by the file's attributes or folders attributes or directories. That's what we call these things in Linux, directories. We'll just call it folders from now on. So if I wanted to delete on destination, let's say I'm using this only for this system and not sharing it with the rest of the family members, then we can also sync up this folder and use this command, delete on destination. This is not clicked on by default, by the way. Do you see where it says -- delete? You'll see that in my script files. Then I can hit the play button, and if the user, Mark in this case today, you know, a lot of times we just see home, Control L. Now you can see the name of the user, Mark. So if Mark decides to add or remove something in his documents folder, pictures, music, whatever folders you're trying to sync up, it's going to do the same thing on whatever device you have sitting there. So if Mark removed the LFS folder, for instance, it'll remove it here after you do this. So that's what that is. It's file for file, folder for folder. Some people like this feature off. Some people do not. Now, these are called sessions, and I just gave you an example of syncing up several folders or directories. We can also achieve that similarity using sessions. I have other videos on my YouTube site, quite a few, over 400. If you type in a keyword in the search feature next to the community tab, the word sessions, you will find many videos that are referenced to Grsync sessions. And you can use any one of them because graphical rsync is graphical rsync. It doesn't matter if it's a KDE Plasma, Cinnamon Desktop, XFCE. Whenever Grsync is installed, it behaves pretty much the same way. Pretty much. That's all I'm going to say on graphical rsync. So that is a manually mounted drive, and this is an auto-mounted drive. So let's get that business out of the way before we open the script file. Are you familiar with auto-mounting drives? If not, let's talk about a tool that you can install. And that tool is called Disks. GNOME Disk Utility. You can find it in your Discover store. Okay? GNOME Disk Utility symbol looks like that. All right, first of all, it's a very simple tool. And that's why I'm advocating that you use it, because it's quick and fast. If you don't know how to read this, like this 1 terabyte drive is actually a USB connected drive. I can tell that by the power symbol. These do not have those symbols. There's nothing here. So this one here is what's running Debian 12 Plasma Desktop. This one here is called my demo drive, filming in 1920 by 1080. Adjust your YouTube player if necessary. That one says Media Mark. Mark is our user for today, demo. That's the name of the drive. This drive here, on the other hand, is auto-mounted. It has an MNT on it. And this is the one I'm going to focus in on. If you have a spare hard drive and you want to use it for backups, and it's a tower computer, or you have a computer that you can plug in 2 hard drives, then we can go ahead and format this. Put in a very simple name, no spaces, is my recommendation. I highly recommend no spaces. All right. We can talk about extension 4. I'm not going to talk about Lux encryption, but extension 4 is a good pick because it'll do files that are bigger than 4 gigabytes. If you choose FAT32, they won't do any files bigger than 4 gigabytes. So that would be a poor choice if you have files, single files that are 4 gigabytes. I would recommend leaving that extension 4. Type in the short name, do the next, and format the drive. You're not done yet. Go ahead and click that and hit Edit Mount Options. This is your default. When this is slid on, this is a non-auto mounted drive. That means you have to manually mount it. And if you're doing fully automated, as in auto start with script files, this drive needs to be mounted automatically before you run that script. So that's done with sliding that off. Just what you think is the opposite. Mounted startup is lit up, showing user interface you want. That's all you need. You click OK. You close this and you do yourself a restart. Then open the system up and you verify that that drive is auto-mounted. Let's click that drive here. It just says in backup. That's what I called it. Very simple name. Internal backup. That's why I named it that way. I'm going to use Control L as in Larry to toggle the entry so you can see that says MNT on it and the cryptic name that the system gave it. This one here, if I click that and do a Control L on this demo hard drive, it says Media Mark Demo because our user, Control L, is Mark. The same thing goes with the USB connected one. Control L, it says Media Mark on it. Most of the time we don't need to have that path displayed. but I wanted to let you see that. Now, what I'm going to do is pull that down and talk a little bit about script files. So I'm going to go to Documents and Scripts. Now, you may want to get out your screenshot tool, but I will make mention of that before I open it. You can open up Terminal and you can type in man rsync and find all these commands down there and others. I'm just using a couple of simple ones today. And I'll give you some examples also. So anyways, I just reran that and it ran silent. It didn't output any file lists. It still did the same job. As a matter of fact, I'll just close it again to let you see it's doing this silently. I'm really being abusive to the drive, but that's okay. Drive is empty, right? We confirm that. Drive is now full of folders or directories. All right, let's open the script file up. So I installed Kate as the text editor so I can do this rather easily. And usually I would not check that. That way you have the option of opening this in edit mode or running it manually. Because I always recommend that you run script files manually before you put them into automated modes like this. Okay? So we're going to open the script file up. All right, I'm going to open up a second one before you make that screenshot. Which one do I want to use? Let me try this one and see what that's all about. It's got one command, and that might be just as easy. All right, but I'm going to remove this part. All right, so first of all, this is incorrect, so let me fix all that. I must have been editing that and did a bad edit. Hey, we're all human. All right, so this part here uses all the commands in the front. This one here uses part of the command in the front and then part of the command in the back. And then you have your file information in the center. And that looks like it has too many spaces, so let me reduce those and put one space. All right, now that should work. But however, this script file is not being used on this system. There's nothing called USB back one here. Okay, that one is called USB 1 TBAC, so that's not the same. All right, but this one here is the script file that I'm using for automation. It has MNT on it and this cryptic number behind it. Okay, so basically that is an auto-mounted drive versus this is not. If it has the word media on it and whatever username that you have in the name of the device, storage device, then that is particularly generated towards specifics. This part here, I can reutilize just about on any system that uses Rsync. Because the tilde just represents any logged in user. That's the magic of the tilde. So this part here just represents Mark in this case, or it could have been Mary or Joe or whoever. So I'm rsyncing documents to this device and creating a folder on that device called documents. Do I have to create a folder exactly the same as this? No. This part is up to you. But I would probably keep that so you know what it is. All right, so all the commands are being done in the front. That would be rsync space -a is the archive option, and it ignores the VHs when I'm in automated mode. I'm going to say this again. In automated mode, it ignores the VHs. In here, I'm running this on login. So when it runs in the background. It doesn't display a file list, but I have it here anyways in case I take the same script file and use it on a system where I want that outputted to terminal with a file list. So I don't have to rewrite the script. It only takes me about maybe a minute to remove those VHs. But the dash deletes it does process. That means it's going to sync up whatever the user has in their documents, and that includes if the user has deleted files from the previous sync up. Rsync will delete those also in here to keep these exactly the same file for file, folder for folder. Now I'm going to give you another tip. Okay, again, I'm assuming you know how to write some of these. But if not, pay real close attention to spacing. You always need one space in between the source and destination. And then I'm going to give you some tips. Now, first of all, if you're just copying the name of the drive, it's Control L. It highlights it. You right click and you copy that. I still have the script file open. I'll paste it on line 10. Control V. I'm using Kate. If you're using another text editor, it doesn't perform these the same way as far as highlighting is concerned. So to give you an example, I'm going to leave the F off on purpose. Now I don't have a match. But I do when I do this. That tells me all of these matched exactly what my mounted drive is. Again, this is the part that I would replace if I move to a different system with another mounted drive, because this number will change. So far, so good? Okay. The other thing I'm going to give you a large tip on, because this is a simple script file. It doesn't have quotation marks and other stuff like that. If you decide that you want to rename this folder my space junk 1, you need to fix that in line 5 with quotation marks, and not the same quotation marks that you're thinking of. My suggestion to you is, if you're creating personal folders, right click, create F10, is to create them with simple names and no spaces in them. You can put in MY and then uppercase J, but make no spaces in there. That way you don't have to do anything special with your script files. Because this part here, Grsync needs to find. And with a space in there, it will give you trouble without special provisions. I'm going to say this again. My advice to you, when you create your personal folders, and I'm not talking documents or downloads or pictures or any of that, you can see they have no spaces in them. But if you're creating personal folders and you're trying to sync them in here, no spaces. So if I were to do wall 1, sometimes these will give you some trouble. So my recommendation is stay away from trouble. Just put in simple names, no spaces. That's all I'm going to say on that. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 files. Is that what we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm skipping lost and found. Grsync is pretty smart. It looks, when you run the script file manually or automated, it looks at every one of these in order, and if it finds something missing, it syncs it up. If it finds something changed, including a text file, it knows the difference because of the file attributes. Okay. Screenshot. So again, I'm going to discard. You can always run these things manually. You can always install graphical Grsync. And again, if you want to learn more about sessions, go look some of my videos up. GNOME Disk Utility, if you are typing in disks, this is the only tool that comes installed. I believe it's Disk Manager, and some people will find this harder to use than GNOME Disk Utility. It takes only a couple seconds to install GNOME Disk Utility if you're auto-mounting drives. If you don't want to auto-mount drives, maybe you're using dual boots or the drive is being used for something else, then don't auto-mount it. You can still manually mount drives. And you can write script files for manually mounted drive, but you're going to have to run it manually. Because these drives do not get mounted automatically as you're logging in, unless they're auto-mounted. That's the whole reason that I made mention of this. There's lots of things to think about. Now, I'm going to also do one of these backups. If you're wanting a static backup, let me see if I can make this grow a little bit. And there's two ways to select everything. You can do a Control A, or you can take your mouse and drag a box around these things. That's up to you. and right click on any one of these things and we can do compress. Now the default is archive tar.gz. If you don't know what tar is, it's tape archive. It's been around since the Unix days like me. You can also do archive zip. These are shortcuts. Oh, you can do compress too. Then you can pick selections all the way from 7 and all the way down to the zip archive. But tar is available uncompressed here also, even though that says compressed. This is not compressed. I'm going to change that name to backup. And then I'm going to put in today's date, which is the 19th of August. And then I'm going to add the extension .tar. And you can see it's processing right now, and it's done. It's finished. So only a couple of files? Well, I beg to differ. That is 698 megabytes. Everything is in this tar ball. That's what we call it. I nickname these also tar boxes because that's what they look like. Everything's in there. But this is a static backup. Also, would I leave this on this booted in drive? Some word of advice. You never know when your hard drive dies. It's always a good idea to keep at least one copy of this on a different hard drive or USB stick. I'll stick it on this one. So I can mix them because Grsync will ignore that. If I selected that in my script file, then yes, but there is no purpose for that. This is a static backup. These will change in time based on what you wrote in your script file with those -- deletes. This is just a plain old tar box, tar ball, all in one. But more importantly, it's also very powerful and very quick backup. Thank you for watching.